Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, I was almost falling asleep there. I was staring out the window. And wondering, haven't we suffered enough? Jeez, it's May 11th. Damn it. So, hi, how are you? It's May 11th. It's a dreary, cold, blustery spring day here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in this wonderful year of 2020. And I'm Lynn Cullen, still live, and going to spend the next hour or so with you, if you'll have me. Personally, I would not. I'm giving you a fair warning. Although, I did wake up and happened upon a very funny thing on Twitter, of all things. Twitter, which is, a hellscape. But, I'll read it to you. This is a tweet that then went on and on and on and on. It's called a thread, and I don't have the whole thing here, but I am just going to share with you this that apparently was posted yesterday, Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day, by the way, to you, at 5:20 p.m., and it was tweeted by a gentleman named Kevin Horn, who is described in his profile as obviously an extremely Penn State fan. I mean, he's crazily Penn State all over. But he's also it says he's a what do you call that when you're a legal defender? That's not quite right, is it? So he's an attorney who represents indigent clients. And he lives around here. Well, specifically, he lives, it appears, in Cranberry or thereabouts. For those of you who are not from around here, Cranberry is an exurb. I wouldn't call it a suburb. It just seems too far away. And I believe it is not in Allegheny County, where Pittsburgh is, but is just across the border into the next county, which I think is Butler. And people often, I guess, buy property there, buy their homes there, to save on some property taxes, I guess. It is heavily Republican, Trump country. And here is, I avoid it like the plague. I only zip by it on my way to points west on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So here's what I read after I awoke. Kevin Horn, 5:20 yesterday afternoon. I am about to witness a full-on riot at the Cranberry Olive Garden. Suburban Karens being what a lot of black people call white women of a certain kind. I think suburban Karens would have been called a decade or so ago soccer moms, okay? So he writes, Kevin Horn writes, suburban Karens with husbands who are the CFOs of mid-size floor tile companies. Okay, I'm going to back that up because when I hit that, that's when I lost it. So he is saying he is sitting, waiting for an order at a suburban, a Cranberry Olive Garden, And he says suburban Karens with husbands who are the CFOs of mid-sized floor tile companies versus the staff of Olive Garden, which is 90 to 120 minutes behind order time. I'll report back. And boy, did he ever, with pictures. It was the most hysterical thing. He reports back eventually that it turns out that rumor has it that they've run out of breadsticks. Then they've run out of salad, and he has a picture of some poor young woman who's obviously one of the employees of this Olive Garden, pulling lettuce out of her car that she had run off to the nearby Giant Eagle, I guess, to get. And there are carloads of enraged people waiting for their dinners, which is why he initially describes the scene as I'm about to witness a full-on riot. People's tempers were frayed. There are pictures of it. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I'm sorry. And his description of this is worth a Pulitzer. Suburban Karens with husbands who are the CFOs of mid-sized floor tile companies. That's who that's the characterization of the people all sitting in their Suburbans, with smoke coming out of their ears. Very, very funny. And from the comments that I read, he made an awful lot of people laugh. Then I later read that there was, in fact, police called to not this Olive Garden, but to the Red Lobster on McKnight Road, which is also in a northern suburb closer to Pittsburgh of Pittsburgh. And the pictures from the Red Lobster on McKnight Road around dinner time last night are amazing. I mean, it's tons of people not doing social distancing and irate as holy hell. And it turns out that, in fact, the police ended up being called. The Red Lobster ended up having to just close down, tell people, we're sorry, we simply can't fill your orders. So what the hell? I think there's something very funny here, and of course it's because it didn't happen to me, but I got news for you. I wouldn't be going to an Olive Garden or a Red Lobster on Mother's Day. But apparently a lot of people had wanted to pick up exactly that for Mother's Day, and there was an extraordinary rush. I think Mother's Day must be one of those days where restaurants do a bang-up business. And, what? You do a bang-up business. And they simply, given the fact that preparing takeout orders is not the same as staffing your restaurant in the usual manner, I'm also quite certain that they don't have the full staff. And, oh, my God, the cops were called. The concern being that, some of these people were going to truly lose it. And we do know that in these times people are losing it for seemingly nothing. But it'll, whatever the straw that breaks the camel's back. Is that right? Is that the phrase? I guess so. Anyway, if any of you were at the Red Lobster on McKnight Road yesterday or the Olive Garden in Cranberry, and you actually walked away with some food, congratulations. Apparently that's something, years and years and years from now, you'll be able to tell your grandchildren the story. It'll sort of be like, having been at Forbes Field when, Mazeroski hit that extraordinary home run, right? Oh, yeah, and Ed sends me this. I saw this, too. This was happening all over the country. An ice cream shop in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, reopened, and had the same kind of crush of people coming at them, and enraged customers screaming at the staff. One poor girl who'd worked there for some time managed to get through her shift and then quit. Said, "That's it. I can't do this anymore." The owner of this ice cream parlor said it was one of the worst experiences in his 19 years of owning that shop. And these are people losing it because they can't get their ice cream cone. Now, I suspect what that means is that people are experiencing quite a bit of stress. And some people are handling it okay. And others are not. And increasingly, others are not. So I can't imagine. I can't. Every once in a while, I try to project myself 6 months from now. And 6 months from now, I'm seeing, the fears and concerns of the flu season coming on and a resurgence of, or, resurgence that might never have left. And, man, it's a little scary that so many people do not have coping mechanisms. And because of that, they potentially endanger all of us. Speaking of people, getting food wherever they can, I came across this. Maybe you've seen it, but I just wanted to spread it a little further because, oh no, the dog's here with that big bone and he's going to drop it. I know. I don't want it. Thank you. I don't want he's literally I think I'm sorry. This is one of the trials of doing this at home. Have you seen all those weather forecasters, the meteorologists, television guys who are doing their TV duties from their basements in their home, and their pets, there it goes, and their pets, dogs, cats, whatever, have become major parts, and in fact, of the forecast, and in fact, probably have added to it. And if this were, video, hi, Blue, Blue would be a star by now, wouldn't you, sweet face? Anyway, here's what I wanted to tell you. There's a lot of these stories going around about people who are on, some kind of a conference call, and they forget to mute their phone while they are either not talking or engaged in something that they don't want other people to hear. Frankly, it happened to me once a million years ago when I was wearing a wireless mic. Actually, it was for a cerebral palsy telethon. This would have been back in the 80s. And I had a battery pack on me and so that I could move around in the studio during the telethon. And I had because it's a telethon, it goes on for a long time, I had reason to have to go to the bathroom. And so I did. And Thank God it didn't air. But the engineers up there who are monitoring, stuff, they were treated to my going to the bathroom. And then at least, I'm sure they loved telling me about it, but at least I learned my lesson with that. But this story, and then, of course, there's the Supreme Court, the toilet flushing thing you've heard about. But this involves Senator Joe Manchin of our neighboring state of West Virginia. And he was on sorry, I just had to kiss my dog. He was on some kind of a conference call with other Senate Democrats. And this was, I'm not sure what it was about, but all of a sudden the other Senate Democrats hear Manchin, or God damn it, hear Manchin ordering at an Arby's drive-through. What did Senator Manchin order at the Arby's? I can't believe where people eat. I haven't stepped foot in a Red Lobster, an Olive Garden, or an Arby's in 500 million years, but to each their own. Senator Joe Manchin, who has the wherewithal to probably eat at a better place, was heading through the drive-through while conducting national business, ladies and gentlemen. And so all the other senators hear him ordering a King's Hawaiian Fish Deluxe sandwich. I hate to even think of what's on that. King's Hawaiian Fish Deluxe. He didn't have a clue that anybody heard all this. He later, after downing the King's Hawaiian Fish Deluxe sandwich, he saw text messages from his staff saying things like, Senator, mute, Senator. Everybody heard that. And anyway, Manchin then said, hey, man, they were just jealous because it is a big, huge piece of fish, and it has a big slice of cheese. What's Hawaiian about that? Putting cheese on a fish? I don't know. Doug writes, we tried to order, you're lucky. We tried to order on Olive Garden, and I couldn't even get onto their website. Well, yeah. So stop and think about it. First of all, they're not used to taking orders for takeout that much. They're desperately trying to fill all these orders of people who I can't imagine. They were totally overwhelmed. My sister-in-law, Doug reports, ordered from the Cheesecake Factory, and her order was 2.5 hours late. And the police were there, too, directing traffic. Okay, so, yeah, geez, the cops yesterday were, really kept busy at all these franchise food places. Doug says they threw in the towel and ordered pizza after, finding it next to impossible to get through to any restaurant. I cooked my own dinner. It was good. It was fish, too, without cheese, Senator. Margaret says, how sad that people act like that. I mean, incredible. It's an ice cream cone, for God's sake. Hey, that guy on Twitter rivals John Updike in sentence structure and description, and it hits a home run in conveying the scene. Absolutely. And, I mean, he was getting such praise. I if I were to be able to read the whole thread to you, I mean, I could, but It's hysterical, but it was coupled also with these funny pictures. I mean, he had a picture of a woman looking like she was about to commit suicide, and that was accompanied by, oh no, is starting to a rumor's making its way around the parking lot that they've run out of breadsticks. So, you know what? I mean, the fact is here's a guy stuck in the same ridiculous, situation where you have no control, and at least he made something out of it. He had fun, and he ended up with an extremely appreciative audience. Oh, God. Hey, just something else, just to steer clear of this frightening stuff, and it's frightening. I again came across this because I've interrupted this program a bit for because of my animal companion, and I came upon a column about animals that we have domesticated. And that we've taken into our homes, and how important that has been for human beings throughout our history. And I think most people are aware that dogs were the first species to actually form a relationship with human beings. And, if you think about that, I would imagine that the dogs, more than the people, had to have been making the first attempts. I would think it was the dogs getting closer and saying, hey, hi, because, probably after human food, but who knows, at some point, and then appearing not to be dangerous, but instead cute. Dogs finagled their way into human company long before any other animal. And, the proof is, well, it's written on the cave walls. That cave in southern France. Recently, archaeologists actually found canine paw prints alongside those of a human child that date back 26,000 years. Try to get that timeline in your head. Think about that. Because here we are, just 2,000 years after a guy who had a big, big impact on the world, Jesus of Nazareth. After Jesus of Nazareth was walking around. Okay, it's just 2,000 years since then. Just, blink and you miss it. And we think of like that biblical time as so long ago. But this little kid and his dog were putting down prints 26,000 years ago. Not 26,000. So dogs finagled their way into our lives long before 26,000 years ago. And human beings were keeping dogs as companion animals long, long before they thought to domesticate livestock like sheep or goats or heaven's sakes, cattle. I mean, that didn't happen till like about 10,000 years ago, give or take a millennium or two. And horses, they only came into the picture about 6,000 years ago, which now seems like, yesterday, because that was 20,000 years after the dog. These wily little dogs, honest to Pete. The Egyptians absolutely, they loved their dogs. An Egyptian pharaoh, again, long before Jesus, so loved his dogs that all his dogs were given royal burials, and there's evidence of all of that. And then somewhere about 1,000 years before Jesus, the Egyptians started cooling on dogs and got totally obsessed with cats, which they decided were semi-divine. It was illegal to kill a cat in Egypt. It was also illegal to take one out of Egypt. The first person known to decide that a fish would make a great pet, Blues come bearing this horribly loud plastic grenade. Why don't you take that someplace else? Goldfish. Yeah, so so China's Hongwu emperor ordered the creation of the first fish bowl. This was not until 1369. So I don't know. As far as we know, how do they know that the first person who said, "Yes, see that fish? I want it in a bowl, and I want to be able to look at it swimming around. It'll give me pleasure." Anyway, pet ownership in Europe in the early modern era was a sign of wealth. Obviously, I mean, if you could afford to feed, more than your family. Cardinal Richelieu had 12 cats. Madame Dubarry, the mistress of Louis XIV, kept a orangutan and a parrot. I wonder if they got along. Do you say orangutan? I do. Like tang, even though there's no G on it. Why do we do that? Or maybe you don't. Because there is a G before orangutan. Orangutan. I don't know. And the French back then, when they had these animals in the palace, they didn't bother to, train them. And so, visitors walking through Versailles are stepping in, dog and cat shit. Charles Dickens had a pet raven. Its name was Grip. And of course, I'm telling you, it's all I've got. I'm by myself here, and all I've got is this quadruped dog. I'd love a cat too, but it's too late for that. Anyway, anybody have any more restaurant stories from yesterday? Chuck says restaurants all over the region and likely all over the country had similar issues to the Olive Garden. Yeah. After not being able to place an order in our preferred restaurants yesterday, we settled on Primanti's, which also had a 2-hour wait. Boy. To Primanti's credit, if you ordered online, they told you when to show up, and indeed mine was ready at the designated time. Well, see, the people at the Olive Garden in Cranberry, from what I understand, were also told, okay, you ordered at 3, and they were told pick it up at 5:30, and they get there at 5:30, and were jerked around for another hour, 2, even more. So good for Primanti's in that regard. Throughout most of the 1980s, Chuck writes, I worked at various restaurants. And let me say that Mother's Day is the last day you ever want to go out for dinner. We'll keep that in mind. On Mother's Day at any restaurant, coronavirus or not, the likelihood that you will leave happy is very small. Complicate that with delivery, curbside, pickup, and you have the makings of a disaster, which apparently happened all over the place. Yeah. Hey, everyone, Chuck says, stay home, cook a couple of steaks. It'll be cheaper and probably taste a lot better. So there you have it. Aaron says the post, Yeah, the TV station. I mean, there were TV stations. One of the pictures I saw from the Red Lobster on McKnight Road, which did look like it could devolve into a riot. I did see TV cameras there. Well, because I guess if you call the cops or people find, it's funny. It's funny. No, the Post-Gazette did an entire story. Many Mother's Day customers left frustrated as Pittsburgh restaurants are deluged with orders. They won't let me read this because I am not subscribed. Okay, hell with you. Hang on. I'm just trying to navigate. Margaret, thank you for that. Okay, so, we have a caller, maybe, still. I don't know how long they've been there. Caller, if you're there, hi.
Hey, Lynn, good morning.
Morning.
Hey, I'm glad you started off a little bit light today, and I'll start off by telling you that one of my guilty pleasures in life is going through Arby's drive-through and getting a Jamocha milkshake and a Reuben sandwich. They make the best Reuben sandwiches to rival any deli Reuben I have ever had.
Oh, I wish you hadn't told me that. I wish you hadn't told me that.
Well, they make corned beef, they make turkey Reubens, and they're just delightful. So There you go. But having said that, yesterday we ordered from a wonderful little mom and pop type Thai restaurant here in Bloomfield, and their online ordering process was, you pick your selections, you put it in your cart, you pay for it, instantly sent me an email saying your order will be ready in 18 to 22 minutes.
Wow.
The place is right down the street from our house. So I was
Wonderful.
able to go down, walk in. I was the only person in the place, They had all of the takeout orders lined up on the table in front. So and of course, paid in advance. So I literally just walked in.
You just pick it up
hello to the person, pick it up and walk out. They said, thank you very much. I said, you're welcome. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. And that was it. So it's just kind of the contrast between something like that compared to,
the corporatized chain, and the regular neighborhood. And that is those are the places you need to go. Give them a shout out. What Thai restaurant is it?
It's Thai Gourmet, right? Now, there are a couple Thai restaurants. There are actually 3 Thai restaurants on Liberty Avenue in Bloomfield. This one is called Thai Gourmet. It's down there on Liberty, kind of across from where the old Dells used to be, just on that intersection of Liberty and I forget the other street. It is there. So great food. It's always been wonderful service when we used to be able to, sit down.
Used to be. Yeah. Well, you were smart. I'm glad you had a nice dinner, and my God, it'll be ready in 18 minutes. Tell all those people in the suburbs that, but in the suburbs there aren't as many little wonderful little places like that.
That's right.
They're left with all those damn chains. But I still wish you hadn't told me about Arby's Reuben. Damn it.
Now, before you go, I want you to keep in mind I have very plebeian taste when it comes to food. So
listen, listen, we're all. I do too. I am not a food snob. Never have been a food snob.
That's for sure. So.
But I love Reubens. I love Reubens.
Well,
all
check
right.
it out, maybe if you get a chance.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye. I do need to. Gee whiz! People keep dying. Have you noticed that? Why did I just do that? I was trying to remember what the last celebrity death that I read about. Oh, it was, God, why am I blanking on his Ben, but his father, Jerry. Jerry Stiller, the comedian. He was 92 years old. And I need to note the passing of Richard Penniman as well. Better known, of course, as Little Richard. But we have another caller, and let me get the caller in, and then we'll turn to Mr. Penniman. Caller, hi.
Hi, Lynn. It's Dave.
Dave! Yeah.
Reuben sandwiches are the greatest sandwiches in the world. They are the king of sandwiches.
I'm not going to argue. I agree with you.
I love Reubens. I make them every now and then. They've got corned beef on sale down at the grocery store, and I'll buy that and some rye bread and all the good stuff, and make myself some Reuben sandwiches for a few days.
Oh man!
Now, as far as taking, I read the thing this morning and saw it on the news last night about the restaurants and everybody not getting their food for Mother's Day. Now,
about what? What? You read
Mother's
what?
Day in restaurants.
Okay.
Restaurants last night. Okay. Now, taking your mom to her favorite restaurant on Mother's Day, that I understand. That is a nice special thing. But ordering takeout, to me, no, come on. You know what? You're going to eat it at home anyways. To me, that's just being lazy. If you're going to eat it at home anyways, why don't you make your mom a nice meal?
Yeah, it'd be better.
Yeah.
It'd be better.
Takeout for me, because I only order takeout when I don't want to cook.
Right.
Not because, this is my favorite. Right? You know, like I say, if you take your mom to the restaurant, that I understand. Ordering takeout, no, that's ridiculous. And I saw the one people, they're crying about Applebee's. Applebee's, for crying, that's like McDonald's as far as I'm concerned. A friend of mine, him and his wife, they were very dirt poor. Well, they didn't have to be, but they kind of went that way. And one of their biggest wedding anniversaries is they went to dinner at Applebee's.
Well, listen, now you were just, no, let's not be a snob.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
I mean, for some people, given people's budgets, right?
Yeah, but when you're 60 years old, you know, you shouldn't have an Applebee's. But, all right, yeah, I suppose.
I have, of my own volition, entered an Applebee's and ordered food. I have. And there's not a chain that I haven't at some point, given a shot.
If you just want, you know, a
basic?
Relatively, a basic cheat meal, you go to Applebee's. You go to Applebee's on your 15th wedding anniversary? No.
So is it a good marriage? It doesn't matter. Is it a good marriage,
actually,
you think?
Yes, it certainly was. It was. He's gone.
Sorry.
But yes, in fact, it was.
Well, so maybe he's eating Applebee's in heaven.
In heaven, or wherever the heck he is. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose. But anyways, you know what? For Mother's Day, cook your mom dinner. Don't go get her takeout.
There you go.
All right. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Dave. Okay. Bye. Oh, dear. Okay. What do I have? Oh, yeah, Mr. Penniman. Wow. I mean, some people really change things, and Little Richard really did. And sometimes we learn more about these folks who have an outsized, well, in his case, outsized personality, outsized talent, and outsized impact on popular culture. And the thing I find most fascinating, I mean, I'm not gonna about Little Richard, is I'm going to call it courage. The courage to be who he was. It wasn't like he was trying to figure out, how do I make a brand? How shall I market myself? He was who he was, unabashedly, and at a time when gender roles were really set in stone and rock and roll was macho music, that he would have the chutzpah, or the, I guess, honesty. I'm calling it a lot of things, courage, honesty, I don't know, to be who he was, to be, this outrageous, flamboyant, to dress as he did, his hair, 20 feet tall, makeup on his face, flamboyantly, whatever he was sexually. He called himself at various times gay, omnisexual, bisexual. I don't know what he would, but this was not something people were willing to do. I mean, other than, I suppose, Liberace too, but he wasn't black. And the impact that this guy had, jeez. I mean, Bob Dylan wrote in his high school yearbook, I want to join Little Richard. And, we look at Prince, what a wondrous being. And his ambisexual image owed him, he didn't have to completely make that up. Little Richard was there before. James Brown idolized him. I mean, and you look at who opened for him at various times. The Rolling Stones opened for him. The Beatles opened for him in the 60s, and he came in and out. I mean, he would get religion and get into gospel and preaching, and it's just a fascinating character. I don't know how the hell. I mean, he got married at some point. Why the heck would he do that? I mean, he became in 1977. He became a Bible salesman. I mean, he would come in and out of the spotlight. And one of the times he just came blowing back in from nowhere was 1992, when there was a big rock and roll revival concert at Wembley Stadium in London. And he'd been asked if he would possibly be willing to, perform. He hadn't performed in ages. He comes walking out onto that stage and stole the show from every major act that was there. Wow. So anyway, I just want to say, what a life. 87 years old. Richard Wayne Penniman. He was washing dishes, I think in Macon, Georgia. And he thought, I don't want to do this. So I just want to say that I'm always just so blown away by people who somehow have the courage to live their lives. Even if there's no blueprint, there's no, just to be true to themselves. And he was such a hodgepodge of the, from the religious to the profane, and it was all there in one being. I don't know how you do that. What is this? Barbara, you sent me a Maya Angelou poem? I think it's too long for me to read before I've read it. I mean, I'll read it later. Thank you. What else do I got here? What else do I got? I know that's incorrect grammatically, by the way, just so you know. I know. Okay. I've had this, like, well, I don't want to get too heavy, but yes, I have been having disquieting thoughts about where we're heading, given that we're a ship without a rudder. And now that we know that the virus is in the White House, in more ways than one, I don't know. My head's been racing about, what if? It's a bad thing to do in these times because anything is possible. And things that were unimaginable now are totally imaginable. But again, I'm almost more concerned about the people who worship Donald Trump, who follow his orders, who aid and abet him, than I am with him. And I'm thinking, if he were to get this thing, and if he were to die, that these lunatics, the same lunatics who are, his base, I can see, the conspiracy theories immediately that he was killed. And if Pence gets taken down too, I mean, I am starting to worry about true chaos and violence. I am being something that we could potentially be heading into with this. Almost riots at Olive Gardens and Red Lobsters and ice cream shops, notwithstanding. This is a country that is on just one little spark away from. I get that feeling, and I find that scary. Timothy Egan, to change the subject, wrote a just devastating piece in the New York Times, and I learned some very interesting history from reading it, and I'm about to pass that on to you. Okay, the year 1847. this country is still obviously young. And across the Atlantic Ocean in 1847, the Irish were starving. Not for the first time. But there was, I'm not sure if that was the potato famine or one of. But in 1847, the plight of the Irish became known to members of the Choctaw Nation, Native Americans. I don't know where the Choctaw, is that like around Oklahoma area? 1847, imagine this. A Native American tribe hearing about the Irish dying sent money, sent relief money across an ocean that many of them, I'm sure, never even seen, to the Irish. And while I had never heard this, the Irish know this. And the Irish never forgot what the Choctaw Nation did. This hand across the ocean from a people that themselves were beleaguered. So this is what's so amazing. The Irish are now sending financial assistance to Native American tribes here that have been obviously struggling with this pandemic, made even worse by the incompetence of the American government. So think of that. Like 170 plus years later, the Irish, with their long memory, say, now we can pay that back. And they are sending relief to Native Americans in the United States. Timothy Egan called it a boomerang of goodwill. But he went on to say, but it also shows how the country that Donald Trump promised to make great again has never in its history seemed so pitiful. And we are, the headline of this piece is, all across the globe, they are taking pity on America. Now, I doubt that, because my guess is the reaction around the globe to our predicament is more akin to Schadenfreude. Oh, look how the exceptional mighty have fallen. That's my guess. We who have strutted so proudly around the globe, now brought low by our own hand. And Timothy Egan starts pointing out just how low we have fallen. We have here in the United States just 5% of the world's population. Yet we have a full third of the sick in this pandemic. We're 5% of the global population and a third of the sick. If you look globally, the average death rate in this pandemic is for every million people, 34 will die. But that's not the number here. In the United States, it's 6 times higher. Out of every it's 6 times higher. I'm blanking on my numbers here. South Korea and the U.S. both reported their first cases of COVID-19 on the same date, 3rd week of January. South Korea immediately jumped on it. We did not. We have no leadership. We denied. We did nothing for almost 2 months. And so by the end of last month, new cases in South Korea are down to less than 10 a day. Here, 25,000 a day. 10 in Korea, 25,000 a day in the United States. Both countries finding out the virus was in their borders on the same date. Just a little more on this. And I guess the thing that is just so mind-blowing is that this is a country. This is why we used to walk around so proud of ourselves. This is a country that turned out 8 combat aircraft every hour at the peak of World War II. And now we can't even produce enough simple cotton nasal swabs to test. A country, we, that once showed the world how to combat disease, to defeat, we who defeated polio. That happened right here in Pittsburgh. We now promote quack remedies. We have a president who suggests somehow mainlining Lysol or something. We are a nation to be pitied. We have a failed federal government. We are the laughing stock of the world. So when you feel you're in a nightmare, it's because you are. I'm seeing that I had a call. I can't tell if that's a new caller. If that's a new caller, hello, and if you're still there.
Hello, man.
Yes, hello. And I'm seeing it's also 11 o'clock. I'm sorry. I didn't see that you were there.
No problem.
Well,
I was gonna try to keep it light, but you
I got a little dark there.
Apocalyptic. Yeah, apocalyptic rant. So in return to perhaps just a bit of lightness, in keeping with the earlier tone of the show, and to avoid closing out on a massive downer, I'll go with a few bon mots. So I imagine it's a safe bet that Wendy Bell and her family were visiting that Olive Garden in Cranberry.
No, I doubt it.
See, it seems appropriate. She seems like an Uber Karen. What else? A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, old Pittsburgh restaurants that, were virtual institutions that have disappeared. I visited one this past Friday, not a restaurant per se, just a takeout place. Rudy's Subs in Monroeville, which I don't think I've frequented in 30 years, but which I used to enjoy quite a bit as a kid and adolescent. So I actually went there to pick up some submarine sandwiches. Have to say it's same old Rudy's. I don't think anything's been repaired or replaced in the past 3 decades.
Well, that's good. I like that.
It looks exactly the same. Smells kind of like old shoe leather, but the sandwiches were absolutely delicious. So,
yeah, really. The good old small regular places. Those are the places you want to actually be supporting, but you're also going to get the best food there, without a doubt.
In a sense, I got to visit Italy this past year. I went to Italy, and France, but so Rudy's actually kind of like a taste of Italy because, like Italy, it's just clean enough to be barely healthy, but dirty enough to be charming. So,
okay. Oh, gee. Well, okay. With apologies to any Italians in the audience. Okay, you're out of here.
Italy. I'm not.
I know. I know, but
Italy.
Yes, I hear you. Hey, thank you. Thank you for the attempt to turn things back around. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you went from light to way dark.
I know. I couldn't help it. I can only stay light for so long.
We were in total eclipse material there. I mean,
yeah.
There's a lot of that going on. We really are in a pretty bleak period.
Yeah, we're pretty much fucked. Okay, so but enough. I'm gonna go. Let's go. We gotta stop this. Okay, goodbye. Anyway, yeah, we gotta. I'm sorry. And you know what else happened? I finished my damn impossible jigsaw puzzle that didn't even have a picture to follow, and was, and when you finish it, you solve a mystery, and I don't have anything to do. Oh, well, I'll sit and scowl out my window at this grayness. That's what I'm going to do now. And I hope you have a better idea for the rest of your day. I really do. So join me tomorrow, and Susan will be here, and maybe she'll be a little more upbeat. I don't know. Everything is, God knows, possible. Have a good one. Stay safe.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.